Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover 120 here, and I'm here with a brand new episode, finally, of Underrated Gems. This is episode 2 of that series. I did Underrated Gems back in August, so I decided to do a second episode finally. And Underrated Gems is not going to have really an intro clip of me saying anything. Not for this series. This series, I'm just going to jump right into the review. But anyway, for today's review on Underrated Gems, I decided to review DreamWorks' very first film, and no, it's not Shrek. People think it's Shrek, but Shrek was not their first animated feature. To those who think it is. It was actually none other than a certain ant movie, released in 1998, the same year as A Bug's Life, kind of around the same time A Bug's Life was released into theaters. And it was kind of a big competitor with the two. And that film was none other than Ants, released in 1998. So what's the plot of this film? Well, unlike A Bug's Life, this is just about purely ants. No ants having to feed grasshoppers, just ants. In an anthill with millions of inhabitants, Z4195 is a worker ant. Feeling insignificant in a conformity system, he accidentally meets beautiful Princess Bala, who has a similar problem on the under end of the social scale. In order to meet her again, Z switches sides with his soldier friend Weaver, only to become a hero in the course of events. By this, he unwillingly crosses the sinister plans of ambitious General Mandible, who's also soon to be Bala's fiancé, who wants to divide the ant society to a superior strong race, and an inferior to be a limited race. But Z and Bala, both unaware of the dangerous situation, try to leave the oppressive system by heading for Insectopia, a place where food paves the streets. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So how was the movie made? Well, it was around 1988 when Walt Disney Feature Animation pitched a movie called Army Ants, about a pacifist worker ant teaching lessons of independent thinking to his militaristic colony. Years later, Jeffrey Katzenberg, the chairman of Disney's film division, had left the company and fed with CEO Michael Eisner over the vacant president position after the death of Frank Wells. Katzenberg would later go on to help co-found DreamWorks Animation, or just DreamWorks at the time, with Steven Spielberg and David Kevin. And the three planned to rival Disney with the company's new animation division. Katzenberg at DreamWorks began developing projects he tried to pursue and suggested while at Disney, including The Prince of Egypt, which was actually going to be their first feature at the time, a collaboration with Army Animations, which would result in Chicken Run, Sinbad, and Army Ants. Production began in May 1996, after production had already commenced on The Prince of Egypt. DreamWorks had contracted Pacific Data Images in Palo Alto, California to begin working on computer animated films to rival Pixar's features, following the success of Toy Story. Woody Allen was cast in the lead role of Z, and much of Allen's trademark humor is present within the film. Yeah, although I kind of wish they got an actual actor to play Z, not some director, but oh well. Allen himself made some uncredited rewrites to the script to make the dialogue better fit his style of comedic timing, an altered line from one of his early directed films, like everything you always wanted to know about sex was included, and he was going to include it in his most erotic fantasies. And so after the film was made, Ants premiered on September 19th, 1998 at the Toronto International Film Festival. It was released theatrically in the United States on October 2nd, 1998 by DreamWorks Pictures. It sadly grossed a disappointing $171 million worldwide on a budget of either $42 million or $105 million. The film received positive reviews, though, with critics praising the voice cast, animation, humor, and its appeal more towards adults than kids. Pretty much, this movie gets compared a lot to A Bug's Life, which is kind of why for its disappointing box office, and since Bug's Life made it $363 million worldwide, and even that film is forgotten by Pixar people as well. Because speaking of forgotten by Pixar people, despite the critical acclaim this movie got, even this film was forgotten by quite a number of DreamWorks fans who are unaware that this was their first film they made. A lot of people think Shrek was their first computer animated film, but it's not. It was this film, and they're technically the actual first animated movie they've made was The Prince of Egypt. That was actually their first one they made. This was their first one they released. Prince of Egypt was made before this. This was also back when they made more grown-up features because, man, this movie is very, very grown-up. Look at this rating. PG. Yeah, this movie's rated PG. This movie does not feel PG at all. Holy shit. Like, if you watch this movie feels way more PG-13 than a PG film. But anyway, as for my reaction, I think this is one of my top favorite DreamWorks Animation films. Before I get into that, well, we all know when Toy Story opened up a whole new market for animation, it was a quantum leap forward and showed us the infinite possibilities of computer animation. After it put Pixar on the map, other studios were quick to jump on the bandwagon, with DreamWorks emerging as the first to go where only Pixar had gone before. It's interesting that ANTZ was released the very same year, or around same year and same season as Pixar's A Bug's Life. There's uncanny similarities. They're both about a misfit worker ant at odds with the society they live in, a relationship between the hero of the film and an ant princess, and even a similar climax where the colony must learn to combine as a whole to save it from destruction. And now, of the two films, I'd have to say, I think I like ANTZ better. And people are gonna get so mad at me for saying that. A Bug's Life's fine, but A Bug's Life's kind of geared more towards kids. Kind of. In a way. Bug's Life does have some dark moments, but that's kind of more of a film aimed for children. This is kind of aimed for both children and adults. That's kind of why I like it better. It does much more of the concept of an idealist out of step with the rest of his colony, and while the hero of Bug's Life was rather too anonymous, ANTZ has a pretty fabulous protagonist, and that's Z. The voice of Z comes from none other than Woody Allen. How DreamWorks ever managed to land him, I'll never know, but it's a stroke of genius. The opening monologue is classic Allen could easily set the stage for Manhattan or Annie Hall. In fact, ANTZ has a very interesting lineup of other actors, too. There's Sharon Stone also stars in this, Gene Hackman also stars in this, Christopher Walken stars in this, Anne Bancroft stars in this, and even Sylvester Stallone stars in this. It's even more interesting to discover how good they all are at voice work. You even wonder why they've never attempted around the time this movie came out. And ANTZ is even a film that could never be made in the traditional hand-drawn animation style. Now without compromising it. Like, Toy Story could have been done like that, because there was nothing in it that couldn't be accomplished the old-fashioned way, but the computer animation medium allowed ants greater freedom. Like, we see sweeping vistas of hundreds upon hundreds of ants, and perform individual tasks as far as the eye can see, and you can imagine a hand-drawn animator going blind trying to achieve the same thing. Not only that, and unlike most kiddie films today, ANTZ will kill it. ANTZ even is not afraid to kill its characters, even the likable ones, with no chance of a return from the dead cliche. Like, when the ants are nearly wiped out in masses at the climax, there is never any question in your mind that their lives are in danger. Like, you really wind up feeling their plight. There's also even a level of casual swearing that's in this film that's quite surprising, and it's kind of why the film should not be rated PG. It's kind of why they kind of should have rated this PG-13, but this film was made like back in the day when the MPAA was so stupid at rating films. Like, then again, there are other computer animated film actors that Shrek also was notorious for having humor like this. Although there was less swearing in Shrek, though. The voices are never distracting because the roles fit the actresses' personalities, and watching ANTZ, you never feel like watching an animated film, but a film driven by fully written characters and not archetypes. And this contributes to very powerful sequences. Like, there's one involving a fierce battle against termites, and this is almost as if Saving Private Ryan was made into animation. And I definitely really admire that, and I really love how DreamWorks went as far as to making... When I mean character kill-offs, they actually made a soldier that's voiced by Danny Glover in a very short role, die in the arms of seeds, and not make a cliche out of it. Like, this was before DreamWorks would start relying too much on pop culture tropes. This was one of the times where it drove the plot where they would drive more of a plot in a nuisance and efficient way. Before Shrek came out, made their first ever big box office success, and then DreamWorks became the studio, and that film caused DreamWorks to become the studio they were known for later. Maybe it's the look of the ants too brownish, too geometrical compared to the cuter round-found faces of Disney, and the fact that you can't really sell a film to the kids of the main voice is Woody Allen, or maybe the parents thought one ant-themed film for the year was enough because, since this film didn't really make a lot of money at the box office, and Bug's Life ended up being the big winner at the box office, in a way. But maybe there were improvements that could have been made in the visuals department, and looking at their following computer animated film Shrek, you can tell DreamWorks adopted a more Disney-like style without abandoning their tongue-in-cheek, out-friendly humor for that film. stuff, that's pretty much it for the good qualities. I mean, the characters are pretty likable. The humor's pretty good and some of the anime, the plot is actually pretty good too. And yeah, but if there are some bad qualities I can't think of, well, I can say that while the humor is still clever, the adult humor and dialogue at times, like I've already said, may not be suitable for target audiences because it does feel rather more PG-13 like. Even though it was kind of very funny, well handled, and this was once again, like I said, this was the same studio that made Shrek. Shrek also had some pretty vulgar humor, but I'd say this one has a bit more than Shrek, personally. And this was back when DreamWorks did more adult stuff with their animated films, not the more kiddie Illumination knockoff they've gone on to become. Also, the animation, while amazingly well done as mentioned above, hasn't really aged well for today's standards, especially when compared to other DreamWorks films as well. But that's pretty much it for my bad qualities. So, kind of overall, ANTZ is a very underrated gem from start to finish, and I'd easily give it a watch if you want to see how DreamWorks Animation began as a studio. But anyway, I have nothing else to say really. That's pretty much it for my review of ANTZ, and here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you want to see how DreamWorks Animation began their era before Shrek made that era more well known to the world, and then I would buy it and add it to your collection. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank ANTZ, I'm going to give ANTZ a 9 out of 10. And now that I think about it, before I end this review, there were some things I forgot to mention, which I'm going to mention in this outro. With similarities with this and Bug's Life, well, actually more differences. The first thing is, you want to know why I also like this film better? Because it does not revolve around the fucking liar revealed cliche. That's one of my biggest problems with A Bug's Life. It relies on that stupid cliche, and I really hate it. It's one of my most hated cliches of all time. It's also kind of why A Bug's Life's kind of forgotten, is because it kind of revolves around the liar revealed story. Like, it probably would have been slightly better if they didn't do that, or they did it in the less obvious way possible. Like, that's kind of why I don't like Bug's Life as much. And also, I find the ant colony in this a little bit more likable. Like, that's another kind of thing with A Bug's Life. Almost all of the ants, except for Flick in A Bug's Life, were just hateable assholes. Like, the only reason they accepted Flick's idea in A Bug's Life was to get rid of him. Just to stop screwing things up for them. So yeah. Those kind of problems with A Bug's Life are kind of why I like this better. The characters are a little more likable in this film. They don't rely on the liar revealed story. So yeah, I'd have to say this, and I hate to say it as DreamWorks Pixar fans, but ANTZ is the winner of the two. So there we go. So there you go. Until then, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. And if you like this and want to see more, then don't forget to like, subscribe to Movie Lover 120.